5:30. Go ahead and call the meeting. We can start with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much. And just want to mention the purpose of this meeting is for the board to conduct board business. Meeting is open to the public and is recorded. You can listen to all past board meetings by visiting board docs through our district website. The meeting is being presented via Zoom. It's not appropriate for your audience members to interrupt board business or ask questions during the meeting. The agenda items will be listed in the agenda. In case of emergency, please exit the building or to the exit closest to you. Director Roper, will you share our vision and mission?
Sure would. Our vision is our community inspires and prepares each student to thrive, and our mission is in connection with our community. The Sequim School District empowers staff to inspire hope and provide flexible, innovative learning opportunities in a safe and respectful environment so each student's learns.
And is there anyone that would care to share our land acknowledgement?
Looking for volunteers.
Sure.
I'll volunteer.
Okay.
We acknowledge the land that we stand on. The Sequim School District administrative and school buildings sit on the ancestral land of the Squamish people. While the Squamish traditionally come from one nation, history has led to the formation of three sovereign Squamish tribal governments. Lower Elwha Squamish tribe located in Port Angeles, Jamestown Squamish tribe located in Sequim, and Fort Gamble Squamish tribe located in. The district's primary partnership is with the Jamestown Squamish tribe. Today, the tribe and district share a partnership that includes official consultation on programs that may directly affect American Indian and Alaska Native students, as well as holistic service planning for students to remain successful in their educational journeys.
Thank you very much. And with that, we're going to go right into our special presentation. It's going to start with 2.01 with Read Across America.
Thank you very much. So Read Across America Week has gotten liftoff today, March 3rd. This is an annual week where we do celebrate reading, and we make sure that our elementary schools are involved in different activities to promote it. And Read Across America Week has been going on across the nation for decades. You can see here an example of what we are doing at Grey Wolf Elementary to get that kicked off. And as you also noted, I think at the study session we had, getting our students as committed to reading and independent reading as possible is a very enriching activity and a lifelong one at best. So we're really looking forward to this.
Thank you. Next, March 10th through 14th, Education Support Professionals Week.
So I would like to share a proclamation related to Education Support Professionals Week that starts next week. But I think what's really important to emphasize is the degree of contribution, the value that our education support personnel bring, and also the fact that we like to celebrate this. So beyond what I'm about to share tonight, next week when it actually starts, we will be having many different ways to demonstrate appreciation and recognize the work. Okay, so here it is. This is a State of Washington proclamation. Whereas education support professionals are involved in nearly every aspect of education, maintaining buildings and grounds, preparing and serving meals, keeping school facilities clean and orderly, assisting in the classroom, providing over 60% of all instructional hours to special education, English language learners, and opportunity gap students, performing and conducting research activities, providing information technology and media services, administrative support functions, and safe transportation, creating a secure and healthy environment, and many other specialized services. And whereas more than 62,000 education support professionals work with and help students in Washington's universities, colleges, and public schools are the backbone of our public education system and deserve recognition and thanks for the outstanding work they do for this state and their communities. And whereas education support professionals are instrumental in fulfilling the state's responsibility to educate all students, and by supporting the learning environment, they serve as crucial partners with teachers, parents, administrators, and school boards. Now, therefore, I, Bob Ferguson, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim March 7th through 10th as Education Support Professionals Week in Washington, and I encourage all people in our state to join me in this special observance. Signed this 3rd day of March, 2025, Governor Ferguson. So I really do appreciate all the work that our district enjoys, and most importantly, our students enjoy from our education support professionals.
Absolutely. They do so much.
Mhm.
So thank you very much. And with that, we did have one last minute addition to our special presentations that I believe we're going to shift to now, and that was added. And I'll let you go ahead and introduce that.
Okay, great. We had a very special surprise in our school district today, and I wanted to make sure that you are aware of it and hear directly from the recipient of this surprise. Her name is Malia Nelson, and she has just joined us right after not only school but work to come and share this honor. She was awarded a special scholarship today, and I'll let her come up to share the details of it and how she was made aware. It is absolutely marvelous. So welcome, Malia, and come on up.
Welcome.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Malia Nelson. If you don't know me, I'm a senior currently at Sequim High School. I applied to UW. It was my first choice, and today I was notified by a UW representative that I not only have been accepted into the university, but also have received a presidential scholarship, and as well has been accepted into my top major, which was bioengineering, and also the honors program. So this is a complete surprise to me. I had no idea that a representative was going to come visit me, much less that, I had been accepted. This was a great surprise, and it made me very happy. I'm very involved in the community. I'm on the city council as one of the youth liaisons. I'm currently the president of the executive council at the high school. I do lots of volunteer work, and Sequim has been really instrumental in my development, especially as a young adult. So it was really heartwarming to me to see that my efforts had been recognized by the university. And I hope to take the lessons I've learned from Sequim and bring them to the greater Seattle community, and later with my skills, hopefully into the legislative world.
Very nice. All right. Well, congrats.
So the way this went down, so you can picture it, is that the University of Washington representative came, and Malia's family members were all staged in the counselor's office. And so then people proceeded to her history class with balloons and this beautiful box. Could you go back to that slide? This photo of Malia and her family shows the University of Washington only gives about 15 of these scholarships. And it's in this beautiful box. And so that was brought into her classroom. Of course, no one knew who the recipient was going to be. And the representative just started talking about why he was there. And then her whole class got to join in on it. And then there was cake. So Malia's mom is with us in the audience and of course, proud as can be. And I'm just so happy for you. I'm very thankful you could be the spontaneous to share this news with the board so quickly. And, coming off of our study session, I just want to say this is in part what it is all about, just having students get to a place where they have something they've dreamed of and it becomes a reality. And you hear from her that Sequim School District had so much to do with it. So congratulations, Malia.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Do you have any questions for her or wonderings?
Thank you just for, it's something for all our other students to aspire to too, to see that it can really happen, that with the hard work and having the vision for what you want. And then, I mean, bioengineering, that's very specific. So anyway, I'm just super proud of you and can't wait to hear how it goes. Anyway, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Go Huskies.
Go Huskies, that's right.
My daughter will be a senior there, so you can look her up. She's also a swim alum, so she
I
can.
know Madeline. I swam with her.
Oh, okay, very cool. You'll see her there. So it's a small little school. You'll bump into each other, right?
Yeah.
Run into each other in Red Square.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you around.
All right, thank you.
Congrats.
All right. Next, we're gonna move on to Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month.
All right, so the purpose of Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month is to raise awareness and foster inclusion of people who experience intellectual and developmental disabilities. And in Sequim School District, we really do take to heart that every student should have a pathway in our school district that helps them reach their potential, allow them to dream and have aspirations and demonstrate their aptitudes as well. So I'm very pleased to say that this Awareness Month is very important to us here in the school district, and inclusionary practices are what we do prioritize. So that's very important. We also want to be sure to let folks know that we need to have awareness that people who do experience the disabilities continue to face barriers in fully connecting with all of the aspects of the education, community participation, and school is in part in place to help people navigate those pathways and to bring them more opportunity. So we will continue to be fully engaged in doing so and recognize this month to pay close attention to what it is we need to be prioritizing.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And with that, we're gonna move on to the approval of our minutes, both from February 3rd regular meeting and February 12th study session, as well as our agenda and consent agenda. So is there any objection to the approval of those items?
No objection, but I did want to thank Clallam Transit for their donation of 2 vehicles to our automotive program.
Excellent. All right. Hearing no objection, we'll consider those approved. And I did want to just take a moment, and I know that we'll definitely take a moment to, or there'll be an appropriate time later to honor service, but I did want to note that our own Shelley Langston, Executive Director of Learning Support Services, on there for retirement with I think 38 years in education, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely noteworthy, and want to definitely thank her for her service. And I know she's going to continue to serve, but
Yes.
for a little bit, but definitely noteworthy. So I wanted to bring that up.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. And with that, we'll continue moving along, and we are going to go to our public comment portion of the meeting. And if you are attending the meeting via Zoom, you would want to indicate your request to make public comment using the raise hand feature located on the bottom of your Zoom screen. Go ahead and do that now if you are wishing to make public comment. We do not have anybody signed up for a live public comment.
Then we will go ahead and continue past. I think without objection, we'll move past our student board representative report. They are unable to be here.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, they're both excused.
Excused, okay. That's going to bring us to our DA Davidson report. DA Davidson, is Corey joining us?
Yes, Corey Plager will be joining us virtually this evening, and he will be our contact at DA Davidson as our bond underwriter. So tonight is just a first blush introduction, and he will share with you some important bullet points about our journey as we navigate having an active school construction bond.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Nichols. Can everybody hear me okay? Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Great. Great to be here tonight. Virtually appreciate the flexibility. First off, I want to say congratulations. No small feat. Only 1 in 4 school bonds have been passing the last 4 years, when historically we've been way more successful than that. So it is such a huge obstacle to overcome, getting a super majority of people to agree to school taxes. So really well done. And I knew you had a really comprehensive plan with community support and a tax rate that was much lower than many areas across the state. So a lot of great planning in your favor. I also want to say that that's the 3rd highest yes percentage that we've had in the last 4 years. So kudos to you for getting not only passing it, but passing at record highs.
Yeah. All certified now, right? It's all
And it's validated, certified, and part of that validation is, that is a challenge after presidential elections, but not in your community. You have really good voters who are always turning out. You had 50% turnout when the state had just 35% average across the board. So your people are involved. I was really happy to hear the news of your student there getting accepted to UW with the President's Award. That is a big deal. Only a couple across the state. My daughter goes to UW as well. I heard, I think, was it President Pickens said that his kid is there as well.
Indeed.
So my son applied. We're just crossing our fingers when they announce the acceptances next week. But what a huge honor to have a presidential scholarship award winner in your community. Anyway, great things about. It's an exciting time for the Sequim community as you supported $145.9 million in bonds to renovate and build new schools and improve safety and security and athletic field, you name it, community use fields. But the reason I'm here tonight is to talk a little bit about what's next, right? Superintendent Nichols and I talked about, well, now what, right? Now we have to do the job. We've talked about the plan. We put the plan in action. It's been many, many years, but now we have to act. And I wanted to share with the board just a little bit about what to expect over the next few months and answer any questions you might have. But what's coming your direction, what your leadership team's gonna be working on. The very first step we're going to do, and this is scheduled for tomorrow, is to release a schedule to all parties that need to be notified that they're on the team, whether it's the county treasurer, the state treasurer, the state registrar, the school district, the bond council. Everybody will get the same draft schedule. And what we're going to do is ask anybody for comments. Does this schedule work for everybody, all parties? And that schedule is going to have things like the first step about building a preliminary official statement. It's a prospectus that we use to notify all possible interested investors on everything about your school district. It's going to be between 75 and 100 pages long. It's going to have attachments to your financials. It's gonna be a really interesting document. You might like to see it when that's available, that says everything that an investor might want to know. The next thing we're going to do is walk the district through participating in the state school bond guarantee program. If you recall, the state essentially co-signs on all school bonds, trying to make them as desirable and investable as possible and keep that interest rate down low. So not every state has a guarantee where for any reason you can't pay your principal or interest payment, the state will step in. With that power becomes lower interest rates, less risk for investors. So we're going to walk the district through that application process. And then in April, we have a draft date to come back to the school board and prepare resolutions. And that's what we call a delegation, a bond sale resolution, where the board sets these bumpers, sets these parameters upon the sale, so that your leadership team can move forward if these parameters are met. And that will be put forth to you for preview and adoption in April. After that, we start working on a ratings presentation for the district to go to Moody's and say, please give us a credit score So in combination with the state's AAA rating for your school bond guarantee, you will have an underlying bond rating that you haven't had for a few years. So it'll be interesting to see what the investors of the world think about your credit score, your fund balance, your economy, your average size taxpayer, et cetera. And then as we get closer and closer to this scheduled bond sale, we have a pre-pricing meeting. And this pre-pricing meeting is the equivalent of NASA before they launch a rocket to check the weather. This is our last chance to check market conditions and ensure that we're meeting all the board parameters. And we're scheduled right now for a bond sale, a draft date of June 10th. So we'll still wait to make sure that date works for everybody, make sure it works for everybody at the district, everybody at the county treasurer, everybody at the state level. And then should that date work and we're all on schedule, the district will have capital project proceeds sitting in their bank account to spend on projects on June 26th. So it's an exciting time, a lot of steps, but really just wanted to check in and see if anybody had any questions and let everybody know that it's full speed ahead.
Exciting.
Mhm.
Questions? That 175 to 100-page perspective, wherever I forget what you called it.
Mhm.
Will that be publicly available? I mean, it sounds like a document that it would be worth a read over, even though we didn't understand all the parts, unless there's lots of pictures or something like that. But
no pictures, but there are lots of tables. Yes, it is very public. One thing that we really pride ourselves on and what the market really requests is full transparency. So this is going to be available on a federal clearinghouse website and that all investors will have access to. We have sales and traders across the nation in 33 states. There's about a little bit under 100 of those folks, and they're going to be spreading the information far and wide, but it'll also be posted on some clearinghouse websites as well. But yes, you will have complete access to that document. It's going to have information like really detailed, your tax base. It's going to talk about what your insurance programs are, what risk cooperatives you're in. It's going to talk about how many permits have been filed in your county. It's going to have every single nuance that you can think about. And I think you'll understand a lot more than you think. There will be some nuance in there, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward and it's pretty interesting. It's just a little long. It's probably not something for a Friday night.
I'm looking forward to it because, over time, there are a lot of truths, partial truths and non-truth rumors, facts, about our school district and the communities in Sequim and surrounding Sequim. So it'll be good to get a good, clear look at, where we are as a community, as a school district. And so I appreciate it. And actually, I'm looking forward to it. It won't be a Friday night read. My habit is to get up early Friday morning and read it, like real early.
Well, and the beauty of this preliminary official statement, I called it a prospectus earlier, is that it's generated by Disclosure Council, who's your legal representative, but they also will source every single piece of that data that's in there. So if anybody wants to see the data and then find where that data is, it will be sourced as well. So it's a really comprehensive document that is full of facts for investors.
Oh, good. Something to do on Saturday.
Exactly. Check the sources.
All right.
I was just wondering, it's my understanding that there's maybe going to be several issuances of bonds, that not just this one in June. So how are you going to decide on the amount of the bond issuance that's going to happen in June?
That's a great question. Yes, the original plan called for 2 sales. It's great the voters supported this large $145.9 million issuance, but it'd be very hard to spend $145 million quickly. And so we don't want to see the district borrowing money and paying interest while it might be sitting with a treasurer account making less interest. So one of the factors is we have this current plan to split it into equal installments. And I've talked with Superintendent Nichols and looking towards Director Santos to see if he has an idea on when that split plan would work. So right now the plan is do a 50-50 split and to split those between 12 months and 18 months apart to be able to satisfy your construction cash flow needs. So this current sale is scheduled right now, and the draft format is 75 million, a little bit under half, right? So just a little bit under 75 million. And that can be adjusted throughout this process. So that's going to be part of the schedule and this posting of documents is a fine tuning of what those construction cash flow needs are within the next 12 to 18 months to make sure the district has the resources they need without borrowing more than they need so that we're overpaying in interest. So it's going to be a really good communicative effort with all the players on the team. We'll make sure we check in with Mike on that to make sure that we get the fresh construction cash flow.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anything you want to share?
I would just share with you that Corey and myself, along with Mike and other members of the team that he noted at the top of this, will continue to stay in very close touch. And so we're talking about details that are pretty significant in the timeframes that they need to be. And we have such a clear communicative partnership. I think this is going to be highly successful and nimble, and we'll need it to be. Because remember, as we do projects, we're going to think about how we're going to fund projects that could be simultaneous. Okay, so that's going to take some planning, but also require that we have a degree of thinking that we need flexibility to.
And just one minor addition is when we think about those split bond sales and the original plan of doing them in 50-50 increments, we have some flexibility to do more upfront, less upfront, and adjust the second sale accordingly. And we keep in mind that tax rate goal that was mentioned during the bond informational campaign. So that is our utmost importance is as we adjust that plan, and there might be a request to do XYZ, we take that all into focus and we make sure that's set through the funnel of what is the voter expectation on taxes. So that's one of the key aspects as we adjust the plan if necessary.
Corey, does the timing of when that happens, does that affect what may or may not be taken out? Like if we're essentially what it's worth?
Exactly. I think the timing is really important from a perspective is when we do this first issue in June, we'll want to have a really solid understanding of what's going to come next 3 years from now, because we have to structure that first bond and that second bond to work together, right? To be that yin and yang to each other to make sure that collaboratively and collectively they meet the taxpayers' objectives and the goals. So they, I think if we make the first sale smaller, we can make the second sale bigger and adjust those principal and those par amounts to make sure we have a little steady principal and interest stream for your taxpayers, and vice versa. If we make that first issue bigger, we can size the second one smaller to make that balance. So they do really work collaborative with each other. So we can't treat them in isolation, but we can adjust. We have some flexibility. The taxpayers set some boundaries when they voted yes, and that is the total term, the total amounts. But the district board and the district leadership team does have some flexibility to operate underneath that and get what's necessary and to keep in mind the financial impact of the taxpayers.
And if I'm not mistaken, when that timeline doesn't have a direct impact as to when the taxpayers are actually going to be paying those applicable taxes, right? That's going to start the next year regardless. Is that correct?
Correct. An issue this June does not create a tax liability until the 26th calendar year. So we have it built into our structure, into the plan to be able to issue bonds and have the payment structured to where it starts impacting taxpayers for the 26th year. Correct.
26. Okay. And that 26th year will also be the same time that it just so happens our EP&O levy will also kick in, right? So that'll
Correct.
be simultaneous. Okay.
Yep, they'll both be adjusted. You'll be seeing those adjustments in the budget that you preview and begin to adopt this summer. So you'll start to see some of those pieces of information come through in that budget about what those tax amounts will look like.
Very good. All right.
Okay. Thank you, Corey.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Corey.
you being here.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night. All right. Next, we have a device leasing report.
Yes. So as you heard from Director Young a few weeks ago, we are needing to have a device refresh because of Windows 10 end of life. Okay. We also have devices that are aging out just because they were purchased refurbished in the first place. We've put them through a number of years as it is, and we need to make that move. Leasing the computers is a model that we did do for the middle school. And we have done a considerable amount of homework since to really know which other districts are following this model. We had already talked to a few, of course, before we proposed it for middle school, but we see this as a means to an end that actually is pretty efficient and allows us to address this Windows 10 end of life situation that's coming in October. Tonight, we'd like to share with you from Insight Financial Services, which is the company that we have chosen to move out again with. We did do the middle school computer lease through IFS, and we have done more contact this time with other school districts who have been involved with leasing. IFS is the service provider that we feel is absolutely the most successful in the educational space. Okay. So we have a short PowerPoint to show you this evening to bring you up to date around leasing and why we want to move forward this way. We also have some information about some of the lease structures that we would propose using. And this is what I'd need to say to you in the end. We are getting information on a weekly, if not daily basis through Bo on computer pricing that is starting to escalate and the concern of tariffs on impacts to technology. So while we plan this as a presentation for the board to be able to just have more information, I also would say it's become clear that we need to make a decision quickly so that we are saving money on the purchase price. So after tonight, what I would be interested in you understanding is that we'll hear all your questions, see if this is a model that we can continue to expect your support for. We'll move forward to get involved in some agreements around some of the technology we need to find, and then bring final documents to our next meeting regarding purchase. Okay. Okay. So Bo, let's go ahead and Bo and I will share this PowerPoint to you. And we also have an IFS leasing agent online.
Yes.
Okay.
So for this lease and refresh program, they put this together for us. They wanted to sort of give us an overview of what they're wanting to do for the Sequim School District. So the contract itself is going to be for the refresh of the staff devices. In this case, it's all staff devices with the exception of a handful of specialized CTE computers. Just because 99% of them are not Windows 11 eligible. And right now we're not in a position to pivot to another platform. So we feel like we have a good idea of what we want to move forward with. And we're fighting for competitive pricing. Right now I've got quote requests out with 9 different vendors. And so right now Dell is leading the way. They're being very competitive, although I did receive an email from them this morning saying that right now it looks like their prices are going to go up this week. And that's the first I've heard of it from Dell specifically. I know Lenovo went up 10%, and then they last week they said it could go as high as 25% of an increase in Lenovo's case specifically. A couple other manufacturers have also gone up about 10%. For onboarding, that element is taken care of in this process, just in the way of they can handle as much or as little of the process as we need. Right now, we're pretty well equipped to handle the actual physical processing of the computers when they arrive, but they have services in that cover the gamut from start to finish if needed. They have an asset and lease management program. There will be a slide later that covers that, and that helps us with staying on top of the dates or when the equipment is to be returned and refreshed. It also helps us with managing which devices we may want to buy out and hang on to versus which ones we do want to return, and just kind of shows us how everything is going and the costs associated, and giving us a really easy way for us to present that data to you as we move along through the process and and consider other options. The return and refresh functionality is also very streamlined. They allow for a lot of flexibility in what we return and what we do with those devices. And then for data wiping, that's a big part. As a public institution, we are required to follow certain laws and regulations regarding what data is on these devices when they're gotten rid of. So they offer services to support with that, which can be very time consuming to do on our own. And then disposal and remarketing, they're actually able to build that value into the lease so that rather than us pay more upfront and then get money later, we're able to get that value baked into the contract so that we're paying a smaller payment. Okay, next slide. So based on my meetings with IFS and the meeting that Regan and I had with IFS, they put this together, basically looking at using a bit of the increase in EP&O levy funds to address this crisis that we're looking at. We're also looking at building a sustainable technology refresh cycle, which for us is it's something that as we've gone on and our devices have gotten older, it's been convenient to just make them last another year. And right now the environment is shifting in such a way that the emphasis on cybersecurity is no longer leaving it to be an option. So we'd be doing the district staff, students, community a disservice if we didn't really nail down a good refresh cycle for the district. And having a predictable budget also allows us to sort of plan in advance, years in advance, knowing that our devices are going to be kept up to date, knowing that school and all the functions around it will be able to continue on a consistent basis. Obsolescence and cybersecurity, I touched on that a little bit. That's a big one right now because we're looking at an environment from Microsoft's perspective that's never been the case before. When it came to XP, to 7, to 8, to 8.1, to 10, there was always a reason why they were able to extend it longer. And so this transition from 10 to 11 is the first time where they're really putting their foot down. And it's no longer just because they're saying, well, these systems don't support this layer of physical security. And it's a combination of people not hating 11 enough to be up in arms about it, but also understanding that right now, for the first time, we've got our insurance coverage saying you have to maintain machines that are being kept up to date with security fixes. And Microsoft is saying, well, the only way we can do that is if you're on machines that are this new or newer. And so our machines are not that new. And so we will be out of compliance with our cybersecurity risk pool if we don't make some moves in fairly short order. And then visibility of all the equipment. Fortunately, this, as I touched on before, and we'll see in a later slide, their asset and lease management system is more than just for the devices being leased. It can incorporate our entire IT environment as much as we'd like to utilize the system. It's a very, very capable tool. Okay, next slide. And so here it is. Yeah, it's a pretty well built out system. And rather than go through all the minutia, I will say I've seen a demonstration of it. It's quite impressive. So, and if at some point you want to come back to this slide and look at it in a little more detail, I'd be happy to discuss it. And I'm sure as would IFS.
One thing I will share is that both in technology department and in our facilities maintenance department, we have been prioritizing how do we get accurate inventories and then manage where all of these devices or pieces of equipment are. How do we keep inventory on hand for things? In this system, we both saw a demonstration. It's right down to the device level, and it does a nice job with timeline, value, and then when you're in a leasing environment, the payment structure. So it would be very helpful to us.
And here's a table they put together to compare what Insight Financial Services offers in comparison to the leading other leasing companies. you'll see that one of the big things that they're working with us on in this case is building the leasing payments around our availability of funds in this case. So we're able to purchase equipment as soon as we need to with deferred payments. But in the event that we're able to find an injection of funding, either from a grant or CTE or any number of other sources, they are flexible enough to be able to take that payment as soon as we are ready to make it. And so when that principal comes down, we're no longer, the interest isn't baked in. So if we're paying down that principal sooner, we're paying less in interest. So it's a good flexible arrangement that they offer in that way. Yeah, I feel like everything that they've shown us has been very clear and easy to understand.
And we've already experienced their being nimble around this with the middle school laptops. Right up to the last minute of our purchase, they were willing to make shifts based on ways that we found some extra funding sources. So they've been really great this way.
Yep. Yeah, and so here's some examples of classroom technology that they've financed with other school districts around the country, some of which are in Washington. Desktops, laptops, Chromebooks, carts, monitors, smart boards, projectors. They've even done copiers, lots of stuff on the data center side, networking and storage. They could even do voice over IP, that's phone systems. They can do security systems. So if we determine that we have some immediate needs, they're able to help us afford that in a time frame and a funding structure that would allow it to work for us. They even cover furniture, software, as well as services, both before and after the leasing. Okay. And so here are some other examples of school districts that they service. You'll probably recognize at least a few up there. Franklin Pierce is in Washington. I believe the Peninsula School District.
I have talked directly with Peninsula's business manager about their leasing partnership. They've had extensive leasing and they just had an $11 million tech levy. So they are actively using IFS for all of their management of devices.
Okay. And yeah, so here's a couple of references here. And yeah, we've gotten some great feedback so far. And here's a couple of videos. One's about 45 seconds long from the Dallas School District, and then Franklin Pierce is a few minutes long. I'm not sure if we wanted to watch either of those today, but they are in the agenda, so you'd be able to open that PDF and watch those videos if you did want. Okay. So the circumstance we're in right now, and keeping in mind that if we're talking about even a 10% increase in price, suddenly whether we're talking 6% interest or 8% interest or 2% interest, it all kind of gets trumped by the 10% increase in price, right? And at least in the short term, and if we're thinking there's the possibility of prices going up even further than that, things start to compound because that same interest is now going to be billed on that higher starting price, and it's not looking great. But we have received some very competitive bids from Dell and from some other vendors, and so we're hoping that as Superintendent Nichols said, that we're wanting to be nimble and responsive to the situation we're in, and yeah, let Regan speak to that. But
okay, you should have packets coming to you, and the packets that are coming to you are examples of amortization schedules regarding the lease. So what you'll see on your first page, I'll walk through with you. You see the compounding period, okay, at the top, along with the annual interest rate for the structure that is on that page. So you have 3 different structures. You have a 36-month, a 48-month, and a 60-month. The interest rate, of course, changes depending on the number of months at which you are paying back on the lease. I want to talk to you. We were very interested in potentially considering 36 months, but the cash flow challenge of that monthly payment is a bit too high of a threshold. So we are coming today recommending a 48-month payback period or a 5-year payback period, knowing that with IFS, not the same with all companies, if we do have the funding that we do have in later years that we could put on the lease, we would be able to extinguish that interest cost later on the lease structure. I think at this point for us, budget stability is our goal, and we want to be able to say that we have predictability and that we have a cash flow just cadence that allows us not to have financial stress. And to make this happen so that we're dealing with the need for Windows 11, I think that that structure works well. If you look at the back of each of the schedules you have, at the very end, it will show you the total payback on the lease, along with the amount of interest that we would pay over time if we were to have to pay it out for the entire period. One thing I want to share here is that these schedules do not contemplate that we might have different funding avenues. CTE is a funding avenue for some of the devices that would be utilized by CTE teachers. So where we can have that relevance, we will be looking if there is availability for that. Grant funding, we will continue to seek that, because with this Windows 11 priority, I have to believe that there are going to be funding streams over time to address this issue. We're not the only ones in this boat. So what I'm hoping for is a discussion today with you all about your questions, kind of getting a check from you, a barometer of how you're feeling about the leasing structure. And we have a representative from IFS on the line with us. Honestly, with the messaging we're getting about the increase in technology prices, I would want to be acting sooner than later. Okay, all right, that's all.
So I have a question. So I'm kind of interested in how this is laid out because it's referred to as a lease, but it sounds like what it really is more of a loan, right? I mean, are we buying these computers or is IFS buying them?
We call it a lease purchase.
Okay.
That's the language that is
Buying
used.
the lease.
Yes.
But it's not lease to own.
We can lease to own as few or as many of the devices as we wish. So what we would plan to do is to lease them through the period that we agree upon, be it most likely either 48 or 60 months. And then at the end of that lease period, we would return the devices and then either purchase or lease devices instead of those at the end of that term in order to stay ahead of these ever-changing cybersecurity requirements.
I'm thinking like for 60 months, that's what, 5 years.
Yes.
Is that about the useful life of one of these laptops? Would you say?
Historically, no. I would say historically we could get them probably to last between, since these are not basic entry level computers, I would say we could get these to probably last anywhere between 7 and 10 years.
Okay.
But historically, again, I'm going back to, years past where these intensive and frequent cybersecurity updates weren't sort of part of the equation to the extent that they are. Just last week, Microsoft announced that any manufacturers that make new devices of any sort that have processors older than 11th generation, which I believe it came out a few years back, even though Windows 11 supports 8th generation and newer, their next feature update has to be 11th generation and newer.
Mhm.
And so they're going to stop receiving those updates. So they're just, my prediction is they're going to continue to become more and more aggressive with this as the cybersecurity and requirements increase.
So even though after 5 years, they might still be functional, they might be obsolete in terms of software demands?
It's possible. I think 5 years is probably a comfortable level. I think
Mhm.
5 years is going to give us the best balance of lower payment. Granted, we'll obviously be paying more in interest over that time unless we
Mhm.
can pay it off sooner. It'll give us the best balance of reducing that payment amount and then having the flexibility and the time to plan what we want our next, batch of devices to be. For student devices, no, I would say student devices, I wouldn't be comfortable going over 3 years unless if we absolutely had to, maybe 4 years. But really, student devices, those are going to be much higher and quicker turnover just because they're entry levels, basic devices.
And they're treated differently.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. Although depends on the staff member.
Yeah.
So $309,000, how many computers does that cover?
So it's a mixture of desktops and laptops. It's a little over 100 desktops and it's about 350 laptops. And so what that includes is not only the laptops for staff, but also the laptops for substitutes, to have some at the ready for teachers who take their computers home at the end of the day and then call out sick the next day. It also accounts for small pools of laptops for folks like paraeducators who may need them from time to time. It also builds in about a 10% spare load for devices that are damaged or destroyed, or otherwise a problem, or if we have one that we have a warranty claim for, we have another device ready to go to issue in its place while that one's being serviced under warranty. Yeah, that also includes computers for library circulation desks. It also includes computers for workrooms. It includes computers for, basically all of the staff uses. It includes, board member computers as well. It's across the board for staff.
I noticed this morning I did in preparing it, my computer wanted update.
Mhm.
The cumulative Windows 10
Mhm.
update.
Mhm.
So, but my understanding is one of the major reasons we're doing this because the insurance company has said we'll no longer support this
Yes.
computer from security unless we go to Windows 7.
Windows
I mean
11.
Windows 11.
Yes,
They rhyme.
they do run.
Windows 11.
Yes.
And that's one of the major reasons. This computer might still run my software, might still run Windows, but it can't be security updated.
Right. They do have an extended security updates program that they're offering for $30 per device per year, which we'll have to do for a number of our student devices. But what that will entail, and Microsoft advertises it right on their end of life for Windows 10 page, is that even if you pay for the extended security updates, your Microsoft Office is no longer going to work. Your other installed applications are no longer going to work. You're basically just going to have your web applications. All the other ones are not going to be supported anymore on Windows 10. Google and Apple have always been pretty upfront about their end of support. This is the first time, as I mentioned before, this is the first time Microsoft has really enforced anything of this nature. So the environment, the ecosystem of Windows has never been this sort of like forced to move forward. It's always been keep using the old stuff for as long as you possibly can till it falls apart. And so it's a shift, and I think it's possible we could plan towards a migration to different platforms. It's just right now it would be too quick to pivot in that way.
You mentioned that the price includes, I think you talked about laptops, desktops. To what extent, I mean, is there some uniformity with what's going to be issued just for ease?
Oh, absolutely.
Of,
Standardization is a
Yeah.
massive part of this process because it's been what staff have now is, it's been what we could afford at the time, refurbished, what's available based on what's on, what's on sale. And it's worked to an extent, but these devices are quite long in the tooth. And so moving to a new model, a standardized model, is going to be very helpful. Go ahead.
I want you all to know that we did issue a staff device refresh survey, and that just closed on Friday. So Bo has been reviewing all of the data that's come in. We've asked folks what their preferences are regarding desktops and laptops, what they need to do their jobs well. So we have really good insight into what types of employee categories have interest in certain components, and we will standardize.
We
Is
got
it, if you're doing docking stations, I mean, doesn't it basically mean a laptop can essentially just be used exactly like a desktop though, or?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And so as long as the deployment is carefully planned for to make sure that the docking station being used will be functional and reliable, and that the laptop is sufficiently powerful. Right now, we're seeing pricing for desktops that is actually very comparable to what the laptops are. So we feel comfortable moving ahead with laptops and docking stations based on the feedback we've gotten from the staff. We got almost 200 responses to the staff device refresh survey. And 3/4 of the teaching staff said they preferred a laptop and docking station over a desktop.
So what happens to all the old ones?
So we've been talking about that as a staff. They have limited to no resale value due to them not supporting Windows 11. However, there is some value in the gray market because you can still put Linux and things like that on them and they'll still function. I think for the devices we have, the handful that are Windows 11 compatible will still want to find a place to utilize those. And for the rest of them, yeah, we're gonna work on seeing what we can do to get something for them.
Yeah, recycle them in some way.
Yes, at the very least, we'll recycle them, but if possible, we'll get some value out of them.
So is the plan to purchase them this summer and then have them ready to go by the fall? I'm just looking at the July 1.
Well,
Date.
it takes a while to process them. So
Mhm.
ideally, we would purchase them this week.
Oh, good.
And they
Okay.
would arrive,
Prices are going up.
later this month
Yeah.
or early April.
So you have that much
And
more
then
time to
we
get
would
them ready to go.
we'd be processing them bit by bit through the remainder of the school year as we prepared for summer deployment, because summer is also when we work on student devices, and so we'll have a lot of work to do to get the student devices prepared for the year ahead. So getting the work done on the staff devices during the school year so that it's a much cleaner deployment will be very beneficial to everyone.
Now, you'll notice on your amort schedule that there are deferred payments until either January 1st, 2026. We've also asked for a model out until April of 26 because that's when the new levy would start. So we need to be cognizant that we did not budget in this current budget for a payment for these devices. So the deferred payment option is what we would be aiming for.
Are you asking for some kind of decision from us tonight or in the very near future, in the next meeting, so that you could start purchasing these in April?
What I would be asking is that you allow the superintendent to have the latitude to work on a purchase agreement in the coming week or two. And then we would bring back the final lease agreement to you for approval, of course. But I think we need to take action on the internal side to get this decided upon.
Do you want, do you want the board to give some at least guidance just to our own comfortability and is now an appropriate time for us to.
Yeah, and remember that IFS is also on the meeting, so they can chime in if you have questions for them directly.
Does anyone want to just share input that so that will aid our superintendent in moving forward?
Well, I like the idea and I support her moving forward with coming up with the plan and bringing it back to us, that we make formal approval so the process can get started. Because my guess is, if nothing else, the percentage increases are going to continue. Plus, if we do buy them, giving you a month or two head start would be a very good idea and also worth our investment.
I can tell you, Travis, Spencer and Scott, that they have a big task ahead of them. And so the more time they have to get their hands on the devices and get them prepared, the better.
Thanks. Good. Maybe unrelated to this particular contract, but so this deals with the issue of the staff computers. Right. So what's happening with the student computers and how are we going to address that?
From what we understand, Microsoft will be allowing for a fee, a 1-year patch to allow Windows 10 to give us access enough for the laptops to be utilized on the student side. So we would be probably entering into an agreement for that fee once we see what it is. We don't see at this moment that we have the funding in any model to go ahead and replace a whole district-wide number of devices. So we think right now it will be about $30 a year.
Per computer.
Right. Now, remember, our entire middle school has, they're compliant with Windows 11.
Yes, so all of our 6th through 12th grade classes have access to devices that are Windows 11.
Oh, good. Okay.
There are 3 carts at Helen Haller that are Windows 11 eligible. The rest are not, and none of the devices at Grey Wolf are. I would say that our task in the coming months on the student side of things is to really give a thorough look through of whether we want to stay with Windows for our elementary grades, or if we want to shift towards Chromebooks, or perhaps some mixture of iPads for the youngest students, maybe at Grey Wolf, and maybe Chromebooks for grades 3 through 5 at Hal, or something of that nature, or whatever other arrangements. I mean, Microsoft is offering Chromebook competitors that they call WinBooks, but I think at this point we just need to really make sure that whenever we are in a position to fund that those devices being replaced, that we have done our homework and are prepared with the best options that's going to weigh both the cost and the how we're going to use them.
Thank you.
So one question I have, and I'm just looking a little bit about the 60-month proposal versus the 48-month proposal.
Sure.
And so I noticed with the 60-month proposal, instead of it being a monthly payment, it's broken down twice a year, which I believe coincides with the EP&O levy disbursement.
So right.
Correct?
So we did ask for monthly and for semi-annual. And so it's possible the paperwork you're looking at is a mix of the two.
Oh, a mixture of both. Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So we are exploring the options and the flexibility of both options. So
I have a question for you about,
yes.
Since you're more familiar with technology, I mean, I have concerns with going much further than 36 months, maybe 48 would be the max, because of how quickly technology is changing and with the advancement of AI and stuff. I get worried being locked into long-term with, laptops that could 3 years, like the ideal cycle usually, I think, for leasing technology. Just what's your feedback on the longer term going to, 4 years or even 5 years out?
From a functional standpoint or from a leasing standpoint?
From a technology functional standpoint.
From a functional standpoint, I would say, it's tough. I feel like as much as I would like to say that I'm completely well versed on what's to come. So much of that knowledge, as I mentioned before, is based on Microsoft having that history of kind of letting things stick around and stay relevant for longer than they had originally anticipated. And being that this is the first time that that's not occurring, I'm really trying to challenge that sort of methodology, because it's very possible that they're going to just continue sort of ramping up that pace of requirement of refresh. I think there's going to be market pushback if it's too fast. So I think the next 6 to 12 months are going to tell us a lot about how, if people are just bailing from Windows in droves, I think there's a good chance Microsoft is going to try to find another way. But at the end of the day, if it's truly cybersecurity that they're going after, then something's going to have to give. And I don't know what that's going to be. I feel like from a performance standpoint, the devices we're looking at should be great for 5 years. We're hedging our bets from a performance standpoint without going too far. So I feel comfortable from that standpoint. I have less confidence than I've ever had in whether or not these devices will be supported for however long that might be. If we were Google or Apple, when they release the device, they publish on their website the end of support date. It might be 8 years from now, but it's on the website, and Microsoft has never done that. So this is a new thing. So we're kind of treading into new territory on that front.
Thank you for that information. It's similar to what I just share a concern of going out too long. I think 5 years is too long to commit to a leasing program with technology, but maybe 4 years might be the sweet spot.
So would someone from IFS want to chime in on if we were to go with the 5-year option and we were to discover that we've made the wrong choice and the devices are not going to last us that long?
Yeah, IFS.
Is IFS muted? One thing I will say, these are staff devices. So one thing I've spoken to Bo about, staff devices are the best taken care of devices we have.
It's true.
So I understand you're talking about functionality and for lifespan of the technology and security, but as far as devices being functional physically, I think this is the way to consider it. Student devices, I'm not so sure at all.
Hi there, it's Colleen O'Donnell from Insight Financial Services. Thanks so much for this discussion. Really appreciate you taking the time. Our thoughts relative to useful life for laptops and certainly for student devices are with what you had said, which is 3 and 4 years. We do have some districts that will go out 5 years, but I would also agree that the sweet spot is 4 years for teacher devices. And obviously what we are also trying to do is work towards that budget that you have. So I think, as Regan mentioned, that you looked at the 3 years and that just is a little bit tight for the budget. So 4 years is, I think, what she was recommending and certainly what we would recommend as a good useful life. Hope that's helpful.
It is.
I guess the other question I have, so and maybe we're just even comparing the 2 4-year plans. One is a schedule that is monthly and one is scheduled where it's twice a year. And I do know that just the way our funding comes in, as we know, there's dips and cash flow has been an area of concern. So I am wondering do you have a preference in that regard, and just which way you're leaning there?
Right now, I am leaning to recommend monthly payments. I think that is, of course, chipping away at this very progressively. And I also think that we need to get our budget in shape so that it's expecting to have monthly demands on it. And you are right that we have these dips and spikes in our apportionment. But if we're planning ahead, I think that we can weather it and also be wise about what degree of payment we can handle. so that we're planning for that. And of course, there is an interest cost to these things, but some of that interest cost is having the cadence that our budget can manage.
Mhm.
When I look at this, I mean, I think about it from like, a personal standpoint. I mean, for 3 years, it's a 1.39 interest rate, and 4 years, it's a 5.268 interest rate. That's a pretty big difference. I mean, when you look at am I missing something?
Yes, so,
Okay.
so part,
I'm looking at the numbers. I'm
Yes.
like,
so part of what that factors in is that return value, right?
Mhm.
So if we are baking in the residual value of the laptop or the desktop,
Mhm.
and we say, well, this device is going to have 3 years of wear and tear, but it's only going to be 3 years old,
Mhm.
versus this device is going to have 4 years of wear and tear, and it's going to be a year older, so it's worth less, versus this device has 5 years of wear and tear, and it's going to be yet another year older, so it's going to have even less residual value. So with that higher residual value on the 3-month lease, they're able to bake in those savings by, instead of making us wait and get a check at the end, they cut us a check in the form of reducing the payments up front, therefore negating the interest to varying degrees. So that's why the interest is so low on that 36
so
month.
is the idea
Not
then
so
that
much
we
the
then
interest.
have to buy new computers after 3 years then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we have to turn them in?
If we chose to buy them out, what that 1.39% would end up being more, because we're no longer, we're having to pay that savings that we had baked into the lease.
So
Which-
if can I just chime in really quick?
Mhm.
I just wanted to, the goal here is to match the useful life of the equipment to the lease term, so that it is effective in the classroom for teaching and learning. And then the way to take advantage of the lower interest rate, like on 4 years or 3 years, would be to then return the equipment and replace it and have that same predictable budget on the plan. In this case, my opinion is that the 4 years is the correct term, because you do get a benefit of the residual value. On 5 years, there's practically very little residual value left, so there's nothing much to take advantage of. So, I mean, just to be clear on how we know this, is that we own the facility where the equipment is coming back. So we are actively engaged in the disposal and reselling of equipment. So we know kind of what that equipment is worth, and how to refurbish it, and and resell it. And there's a pretty significant difference or drop in residual value between 3 and 4 years, and then an even further drop for 5 years.
Bottom line is that there are school districts that have very strong tech levies.
Mhm.
And so when they choose to do that, they have an injection that allows them to get on a rhythm that is able to handle a 36-month lease.
Right.
And I do aspire to
Mhm.
us being in that position
Mhm.
soon. I actually have to credit Bo and IFS working with us to try to get us closer and closer to a structure that is sustainable.
Mhm.
But to Michael's point tonight, if school districts are going to be hostage to companies that decide we're going to change models, makes, and software, it's not sustainable for school districts to be in the business of having this type of refresh all the
Mhm.
time. So I guess we'd be looking for what's coming next
Yeah.
as far as technology options in the universe,
Mhm.
because I don't think laptops will be here forever.
Mhm. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else that's a question or?
Well, I'll just give input that I think that, I think the 48-month plan seems reasonable, and if you think definitely trust on your expertise. If you think that we can do the monthly plan,
Mhm.
then I think we should go forth. I think I would recommend that we move forward quickly. I don't know if there's a formality involved with a board decision or not, but I wouldn't want that to hold up the potential
Thank you.
increase in prices. So I would actually consider this certainly a decision that I feel, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I feel is definitely in your wheelhouse as superintendent. So much like many of the decisions, if there is a final approval that has to be done even after the fact, I think that's appropriate, but I don't know that I need to view anything else prior to you making that decision, I guess is what I'll say. And so this seems reasonable, and if you're comfortable with it, I trust your expertise 100%.
Thank you.
So
And I agree, the market is so volatile right now, but really the most important thing is that we get the best deal. And to me, that's time. We need to move quickly. So I'm in agreement with what Eric just said.
I would agree to up to a 48 months
Yeah.
term. I think I would be agreeing that I would trust your judgment up to that term.
Yeah, I agree. And of course, if there's any update in the significant up, you know, it looks like it's gonna be 23% or, you know, that sort of thing, that we need to know that, I suppose. And as a side, it has nothing to directly to do with that. I just noticed that after years, thousands of years of the assessor's office calling it a M&O levy, when it became an EP&O levy, and then it changed to an enrichment levy, the county assessor's office didn't change it, but now it's listed as the enrichment levy. So when people look at their current year's assessment, it will be enrichment levy. So the term EP&O really doesn't exist anymore. But it's familiar to
Yes.
everybody.
Okay.
And
Thank
just
you.
to let you know.
It's good news. Good to know.
and if you needed a definition of or an example of irony, my computer through this whole presentation won't turn on. Or maybe it's not irony, maybe it's planned. I don't know.
I can assure you it's supposed to be working.
If it was planned, kudos to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Also,
Thank you.
like very impressive, but.
Thank you. Yeah, I just use my mind powers.
So I just want to make sure you all know the 309,000 that you see there is for the desktops and laptop combinations. We also have monitors and docking stations that we need to purchase as well, and they'll be on a separate schedule. So we are working hard. Bo, you've done a great job in getting this pulled together. And I'm glad that you've all had a chance to see so deeply inside what we're looking at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. And thanks to IFS as well.
Yes, absolutely.
thank
Thank
you.
you
For
for being
having
on
us,
tonight.
really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay. Right along. That's gonna bring us to a facilities report. Been waiting with great anticipation, I'm sure.
My question is, did your laptop just do an update?
I don't think so. It just,
Are you
it's,
sure?
no lights, nothing, it's, yeah, so.
I've got some update horror stories I could tell you later. All right.
Okay.
Members of the board,
don't mean it.
Superintendent
Wait,
Nichols, Miss Norman, good evening. Welcome to the March 3rd capital levy and facility updates to the school board. Next slide, please. So we'll start with levy projects. Can you hear me okay? I'll wait for Bo to get his headphones on. Hear me okay, Bo? Cool. All right, let's start with high school HVAC. 99% done, starting formal commissioning this week. Commissioning agent will be on site. First 4 buildings, he'll finish at that time. After some minor punch list items are completed on the other 4, he will finish the other 4. And Winaha and I will be able to come before you at that time and begin the project closeout process. So big milestone there. Building management system at the high school is 98% complete. We're in the second phase of the punch list. There's very, very few things left to do. The gym ADA ramps are installed. There are some punch list items to do with the doors that we need to complete. We'll be doing that punch walk. Winaha and I will be doing that on Friday. Shouldn't take too long to correct it. So we anticipate within a couple of weeks, we'll be all wrapped up there as well. Capital projects on the horizon, CTE building. I focus on CTE for a specific reason, mostly because the funding's there. So construction management RFQ for the CTE has been formally withdrawn.
This is powerful.
In favor of a combined CTE bond construction management RFQ. Victoria doesn't know this yet, but she'll be sending these out to the respondents in the next 48 hours. Combined RFQs and draft and go to legal by Friday, close of business. That's it for now on capital. So facilities updates, quite a bit to go through. So I'll talk really fast. Please stop me if you have any questions. Our new CMMS, or computerized maintenance management system, FMX. Integration's complete. We're populating the rest of the data tables with core information now. The facility rental module is in test. Jamie's going through that with a fine tooth comb. Work order modules in test, including the use of the equipment location map. It's one of the features of this particular platform is that our technicians will now have a map to look at, and any future technician will have a map to look at. So they know where the equipment is, and they don't have to go on a tour of the district and look in every room and understand every inch of every attic to understand where things are. So I wouldn't call it geolocated, not yet anyway, but we'll get there someday. So at any rate, maintenance and lead custodial personnel training will occur this Friday. That's their initial training. We anticipate the initial letter to staff be distributed at the end of March. And that letter to staff is, and we've given them a couple of heads up already, a couple of teasers, if you will, but the formal letter to staff will go out hopefully by the end of this month with instructions on how to use the new system. And it's not a lot different as far as their functionality is concerned from the old system. It's hit this button, fill out this form, hit the send button, and we'll go from there. We also anticipate go live sometime early April after the final test environment validation and user testing is complete. I just want to mention in the last bullet that facility personnel, and that's all of them. I mean, it's the maintenance techs, it's groundskeepers, it's our custodial leads. Over the last 3 months have canvassed the district for all the fixed equipment, all of our mowers and snow blowers and buffers, and I mean, you name it. Every single asset we own, from fixed equipment assets to what I call accountable assets. In other words, if it's got wheels and it can walk off, it's an accountable asset. They've literally listed all this stuff, cataloged all this stuff, documented all this stuff, and have passed it forward. So Jamie and I, mostly Jamie, can populate the asset registry. So they did a fantastic job. I mean, it's the first asset registry this district's ever had. So we're going to finally have an accounting of all the facility equipment that we own. At least a 90% solution to start. There's going to be onesie twosies out there that we'll find here and there, but you know, lot of climbing on roofs, a lot of going through attics. So they've done a great job. So I just want to congratulate them. They've done a heck of a job. Next slide, please. So moving on to spring brick projects. If you haven't had a chance to go into the OPA gym lately, thanks to Mr. Charette and company, you will see a new updated paint job. And it's the brainchild, of course, Mr. Flater and John Charette scheming to get the otter theme throughout the gym. And it looks pretty cool, honestly. We'll complete the ball stop netting system on the stadium field to protect the track team from errant soccer balls. It's taken us a little bit more time and effort to install that than we originally planned, mostly due to the fact that our stadium is 6 inches of topsoil and the rest of it's all rocks. So we've had to hire a company to come out for a very reasonable price. Thank you. Thanks to them, I'll mention their name, Mr. McFarland, that will come out and bring their industrial post hole digger onto the stadium, and along with one of the groundskeepers, they'll drill the holes for us. We'll grout them in and put the lids on them so they're not trip hazards. So it's coming. That'll start next week. We're going to remove the balance of the lockers from the high school locker bays, make room for custodial supply bulk buy inventory. It's just something we've been planning for a while with centralized procurement in order to get our hands around how much should we have on hand min max over a 6-month period. So we're not buying literally bags and toilet paper and hand towel once a month. We're looking to buy them every 6 months at the most. We'd very much like to buy a truckload annually. As soon as I have an idea on whether a truckload will actually do it or not across the district, then that's what we're going to do. But we have to have a place to store this stuff. So this is part of that process. Just back in the napkin figures right now, we could save the district as much as $20,000 to $25,000 a year in material cost just by buying in bulk. All right, carpet cleaning across the district. That's not new news, but it's worst first. Probably much at Gray Wolf. Some OPA work, of course, and across the high school here. We're going to clean out the spares, or at least the useful spares, out of the pool room. And I'm not sure if all of you are familiar with that fine building here on the high school campus. It's the leftover, literally the pool showers from the old pool that used to be on the west side of the property.
Okay.
It's
So there used to be a pool.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I was as surprised as
Outdoor?
you are.
Outdoor.
Yeah.
Outdoor pool, right?
Beg your pardon?
Outdoor.
It was.
Well,
Yes.
In Sequim, yeah.
Yes.
And
I
did
have
you
a couple of gentlemen on my staff that learned how to swim in that pool, apparently.
and did you say carpet cleaning at Gray Wolf? You're trying to tell me there's a need to clean carpets at a K2 elementary school?
When they eat in the classroom, absolutely. Sir. Yes. So
Go figure.
we're hoping to get across.
Maybe we should
that
get a
as well.
cafeteria over there possibly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Of course. But anyway, we're gonna get the spares out of the pool room. It's in the way. So we need to get the useful stuff out of there and either recycle or dispose of all of the other pack rat material that has been piled up in there over time. Replace exterior privacy screens on both high school locker rooms. It's the wood privacy screens you see outside the locker room doors and exterior of the building. They're starting to deteriorate. The one on the west side is in pretty bad shape, so we're going to get to those. We'll also PM the hauler HVAC units as we do every spring. And the CTE monitor installs will go up in the high school cafeteria, H building, and the middle school cafeteria. So that will make our student, not sure who they are, the Student Information Committee, I think is who they are. And Mr. Flater quite happy. So anyway, Bo and I still have some collaboration to do to get hooked up to the network, but it won't be long. Small district modernization grant decision. Expecting that right about last week. Didn't see it yet. But we're awaiting that. Clean Buildings Act strategy and mid 2026 deadlines. I'm sorry to report that we were not elected to receive the consultant grant. Don't know why, waiting on the debrief. So I've asked for it in writing. They said they'd send it to us next week. And then we'll consider our options from there. All right. Summer projects, and this is just a short list. We'll have a lot more to do than this, I believe. The high school main gym floor is going to get its first screening and recoat. And I had some stripes as well for some of the pickleball and PE folks that didn't get a chance to chime in during the design process. The wrist pool adjuster met with myself last week to determine coverage for the middle school gym floor water damage. There was some water damage behind the bleachers, went undetected for quite some time. And about 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I was made aware of it. We found the leak, we stopped the leak, and finally got around to calling the adjuster. But the main gym floor is going to require a repair about 200 square feet of floor behind the bleachers, a full sanding because it's never been sanded, and restriping and recoating. We're optimistic that the risk pool will cover most, if not all of that. By request, my request specifically, the risk pool adjuster also reviewed a dormant 2019 claim that may provide some funds to repair the baseball foul ball screens. And what the foul ball screens are, if you're not familiar with a baseball backstop, you get the verticals, and then you get 45-degree screens that usually emanate from the very top of the backstop. Those are there to stop the foul balls from going up and over the screen, and in this case on the track, and unfortunately hitting our track members. So we're gonna see how far we get with that, and then hopefully provide some funds to replace and reinstall the batting cages. This won't surprise you. The remnants of the batting cages are still in our groundskeeper's cage, laying on the ground. So they picked them up and saved them. So maybe we can get them reinstalled, maybe not. We'll see how much we get and see what we can do with it. But nevertheless, something's better than nothing, right? Especially with a 19 claim. Auditorium sewer line repair. Yes, our latest malady. Some of you are aware of this from last week. So this summer, we're going to have to tear up that green space between the auditorium and the district office here, and replace about 15 to 20 feet of sewer line that emanates from the auditorium and hangs a right turn and hits the 10-inch main coming across campus, which is the force main that goes to the force main and FER. So don't know how much yet. I'm still contacting people to get quotes. So it's in its nascent stages. A decision will have to be made as to whether we are going to file an emergency repair grant with OSPI, cover it. There are certain procedures, some comfortable, some not so comfortable, that we'll have to consider if the cost is such that that is a consideration. So further discussion.
What would be a downside to trying to get a grant?
The board will have to declare an emergency.
Okay.
That's one. Number two, the district, it will be means tested. So the district will be audited. We'll have to open our books. So OSPI can make a determination on whether we have the money in their eyes to pay for it or not. The audit is the more painful part. I think the board is reasonable enough to declare the emergency they need to in order for us to get this done. It's the audit part that's painful. Okay, so. And for the record, every request for an emergency repair grant that we put into OSPI will require an individual emergency declaration. So right on time, right? Here we go with the maladies and the failures that we talked about during the bond. So
Yeah.
there is irony, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
So district-wide PM inspections and equipment condition assessments, that's coming this summer. A lot more of them. PM inspections have never been done. PMs we started last year, as you know. I'm going to expand. Yes, ma'am.
The acronym.
Oh, sorry. Preventive maintenance. And equipment condition assessments. I did put CA on there, so that's good. And more. So there's a lot to do. Anyway, thanks for your attention. Thank you very much. Any questions?
I was just.
No, I was just gonna, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, just to what degree, and I don't know how much it impacts, but I'm just thinking of what's left of the capital projects levy and the different projects. To what degree are we having to, now that the bond is passed, and I know we don't have designs and all that, but to what degree are you having to consider just knowing that that's out there and how that might impact spending that's happening for current projects? Is that a layer that you're considering? Is that having to change any decisions that you're having to make on your
It
end?
has changed a few decisions.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. We were gonna put some bollards up on the road that leads from the stadium parking lot throughout the campus. It was a road that some vandals accessed not long ago in order to try to steal one of our vans. It stole a bunch of equipment out of our
Right.
groundskeeper's cage. We've elected not to install those bollards to the tune of 16,000 because that whole area is about to get renovated.
Right.
That's one example. When it comes, but on the inverse of that is when it comes to immediate needs. Immediate needs such as the Helen Holler vault. That compressor is currently in Pennsylvania, awaiting hopefully a rebuild if they can make the parts. They have to make the parts. And the immediate needs, unfortunately, are the immediate needs.
Sure.
These are single points of failure. We don't have any redundancy on any of this equipment or any of those systems for that matter. So the fact that we captured a bond has no bearing on those immediate needs.
Sure.
And as far as capital levy is concerned, that is committed.
Right.
So that also has no bearing in this
Okay.
case on immediate needs.
Sure.
No, I was just gonna mention your, immediate needs, and given the age of the facilities and the surprises underground, that your mile a days, I'm sure sometimes are mile an hour. Several things will come up within a work day that you weren't expecting, or we weren't expecting, so.
Very true. And to your point, the condition assessments that we're going to embark on this summer and some of the PM inspection, preventive maintenance inspections that we're going to embark on this summer, they're designed to catch catastrophic failure before it occurs. There are a lot of this is physical inspection. Okay. This is, how does it look? How does it sound? How does it smell? How does it look? We don't do vibration testing. There are a lot of other techniques that you could use to try to figure out if something's going to catastrophically fail. We don't have that equipment. We don't have that technology. We're not that mature yet. So to the point is that if we catch just one catastrophic failure that hasn't happened yet throughout the summer, especially on the systems that we're most vulnerable to, Helen Holler's vault, sewer vaults, prime example. If we can find just one catastrophic failure imminent and avoid it, then the whole program throughout the summer has done its job. We've got other stuff I'm sure we're going to find. We're missing a little bit of potable water right now. We're trying to find that too. So more to come. It's an adventure.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have, I believe we have a WIAA report.
Well,
Jeffries?
Yeah, just briefly, it is in conjunction with my legislative board representative, but at the same time, I was elected to the District 4 WASA WIAA Board Committee, Interscholastic Activity Committee. And just to note the activity, it's both athletics and activities, not just sports. Every year, they take a look at the rules and regulations and try to make amendments to the state WIAA rules and regulations. And if 5 school districts come up with an amendment, it's put on the agenda. This year, there are 16. And basically, the IAC, the Interscholastic Athletic Committee, meets only a couple times a year, and to gather data, it's an advisory board. First of all, we don't vote or make any decisions other than to the WIAA WASA representatives. We favor this, we don't favor that, as a recommendation. You notice in the next slide, the District 4 is all those school districts. So I'm soliciting input from those districts on what their representatives, their athletic, their WIAA representatives feel like we should, how we proceed. I need to get these recommendations by March 19th meeting. And then we make our recommendations so they can vote on them. The big WIAA committee can vote on them in April. This is the 16. Some of them are kind of routine and very important to the softball team that would like to see 2 more games a year added, that sort of thing. There's some others that are more controversial and could be changed or affected by legislation or not. But this is just a summary or a name of the 16 amendments that are on board right now. And I can send you the pros and cons of each one if you're interested in kind of looking at them. And basically, just to let you know what they're doing right now and how that works.
Are these voted on individually, like each number?
Yep, each one is voted individually by the WIAA state committee, state organization, which is semi-independent organization. It's not a WASDA, not a state. It's approved by the state, but they operate independently.
And do you want, so I know you're reaching out to all of those other school districts.
Reached out to
for
the
feedback?
WIAA representatives from each of those boards to give me feedback.
Are you at some point wanting our board to give you feedback?
Nope. You give it to Michael. He's our WIAA representative.
Okay.
I don't listen to you. I was elected to this position by those 15 school districts, not by this board.
I don't think I've ever seen you so pleased.
I like it. I like it.
Noted.
Cheers to that.
And like I said, it's only advisory. We don't actually make the decision about anything, except that this is our recommendation.
I have heard that, I mean, who knows what, or actually, let me start with a question. When will the outcome, when is this going?
April 19th. Well, the final vote is April 19th.
April 19th, okay.
And some of these I recognize from the last time I did this, like adding, longer timeouts or something like that.
Mhm.
The same schools want the same thing again. There are a couple of new ones that haven't been there before. So.
My understanding is that there are choices that a district, like if for some reason, whatever passes, if some districts are not agreeable to that, there are choices that the district could make not to be a part of WIAA. They could be
I
a
guess
part of
they
something else.
They could try to appeal it, but they wouldn't.
Do they? Well, I
They
guess my-
wouldn't be, they'd have to leave the WIAA. I think that they wouldn't be eligible for any of the playoffs or state, if they say, we no longer want to be part of this organization.
That'd be pretty drastic.
But is there another choice?
Yeah, don't be in it.
Could there be another organization where they have a different?
I suppose.
I can imagine so. Yeah, okay. I'm just trying to think of.
I wouldn't be surprised there's a private school athletic association out there.
I can speak a little bit to this. Each year we do authorize some type of thing to be part of WIA. We do it, I think it's annually or every 2 years. I think it's every year that we agree to be part of it. So it's something that we just agree to, like any, I think, organization, to abide by these rules and standards, and that's where these come up. It's, if somebody has some strong feelings on how WIA is running, since that's pretty much the only thing we're in. But I think each year, I think we agree to abide by the WIA amendments and rules.
But anyway, so I'm in the process of gathering that information, and once I find out more after March 19th or after April, I'll let you know maybe how things came out. Whether you're interested in, I'll just let you know that adding two softball games to the season was approved, but adding calling the game after 60 minutes if the score is a difference of 10 was approved or not, those kinds of things.
All right, well, I will make sure, as it relates to where I'm at, I'll make sure that our WIAA rep is duly informed as to
If you
where I
want,
stand.
you had those pros and cons of all 16, have you seen that?
I have, yeah,
Okay.
and I can send that.
So
out.
if you want, yeah, if you want to see those, I would say, because it's many pages long, but
Right.
if you want to see that, ask Michael and
Yep,
take a
and I'll
look
be
at
sure
what
to-
the pros and cons are of the various, because there are pros and cons to each one of them.
Well, also just understanding the way this works. So Michael, do you have to follow if there's a majority of board members who come to you about a couple of those things? You have to follow what we tell you or?
I would think if we did it as a formal vote, I would have to follow. If we just said, hey, these are the recommendations, and I would just pass on the information that hey, I had 2 board members that felt a pro on this concern. I would pass that on to Larry exactly as the information I received.
I'd be careful of that, just because I think the athletic directors also vote their recommendation and maybe the superintendents.
Actually, the superintendents have an advisory
Just like-
representative.
Uh-huh.
Not all athletic directors vote. There
Okay.
are certain representatives of a
Right.
larger group. So it's become clear that WIAA structure is highly representative focused.
Mhm.
And so we just have to have clarity that the communication is going to the right representatives to share. And then we can get some definition of who's a voting member if you like.
Mhm. Yeah, I have a list of who, there's not many of them. Probably an odd number, 13, 15 members.
I will share that superintendents wise, there is some concern about amendments having gone forth in a certain case or two that do not abide by state law,
Mhm.
and that the amendments ended up getting out in front without a recognition of this. And if they pass, you are having a whole organization in conflict
Yeah.
with state law. So I know that is being discussed by many groups at the moment.
Yeah. And getting back to the power issue, the board could vote yes. And after collecting the data from the other 14 districts, I would maybe be obligated to vote no. Because I don't,
Can you
in
represent
this
all
case,
of
I answer to the D4, not to the board.
But you are also an advisory in that
So
capacity?
so I would recuse myself from that vote, but this is what I found. I found, on a certain amendment number 1, there were, 4 school districts that were for it, and there were 11 that were against it. I would report that in basically, so that the larger committee could take a look at the recommendation and make their decision how they would vote at WIAA.
Do you, what I'm asking though is the April vote.
Yeah.
Do you vote or do you
Nope,
advise?
April, I have nothing to do with,
Okay.
except I get the results. The March 19th vote, which is the D4 recommendations, advisory is March 19th, but the vote itself, I find out the results like everybody else. I don't vote.
Okay.
We do have another board meeting before that
Mm.
March 19th. So if there is
So
something you'd
you
want
may
to
want to
go
look
back
at,
to.
there are a couple of controversial ones, and it depends on whether you played softball or baseball or, wrestling. You might say, oh, I like that new rule. It might be something that you feel would help the sport as well.
That's the controversial one?
Well, controversial
Any
ones,
of them.
any of them. Well, evidently they're controversial because some of them come up every year and they don't get passed.
And they do have a pro cons, like Larry said, that you could look up. And also, if you do have feeling on any of them, I would check with our AD, our athletic director, to find out the implications of how it would affect our district in particular.
Yeah.
So if they're like, Superintendent Nichols mentioned that there ones might come up that might be as written, a violation of the law. Is that listed in one of the cons? I would think this breaks this
Yeah.
law of the state. I would think that's a con, right?
Yep. They mention it. Or there may be one of those amendments that if we passed it, it's going to cost us money.
Cost the district money?
Mhm. Mhm.
You add 2 games to the
Yeah, you
softball
got all
schedule.
that
Yeah,
transportation.
yeah,
cost.
definitely. Yeah, that's a cost. Okay.
If at any point after 60 minutes of play in high school and 45 minutes at the middle school level, the soccer match would be terminated if one team is already ahead by 8 goals. That controversial? Well, it depends on whether your team's winning or losing.
Fair enough.
Never know when those comebacks can
Yeah.
happen.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, thank you for keeping us,
Yeah, well,
updated on
it
this.
meets a couple times a year, but the times that it meets is fairly intensely for this 2-month period of time.
Okay.
And this is my last year. You could run next year, but you have to be voted district or D4 wide.
Yeah. All right. Well.
The power.
Maybe somebody will opt to run just because they know that they don't have
That's
to
right.
listen to me.
It's Jeffrey, it's either Jeffrey's
Not that I really-
promises to run, or that could be viewed by others as a threat to a run.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
No,
Jeffries?
no.
Okay. Thank you for the report. Appreciate it. Superintendent report.
All right, I will keep it concise because we do have 7 policies to
Okay.
discuss tonight. Okay, what I'd like you to know is that I am now a part of an OSPI superintendent roundtable that will meet about 4 times in a year. And this is a smaller group of superintendents who represent all different enrollment levels, size of districts, different programming priorities and so forth. And we literally are just talking about aspects of the day that need to be discussed and have representation from different angles of our state. So I have found it so far to be very enlightening because not only am I submitting input for our region and district size, but I'm learning lots about other districts and what they're doing. So good news there. This is the first regular meeting since the passage of our bond. So while we certainly have discussed it before at study sessions, I would just want to say a formal thank you to our community for support. We certainly are working very hard now and fast to get all of the steps together that you heard from Corey Plager tonight. And we also have bond counsel at Foster Garvey that will be advising some of the resolution work that will be brought to you in April. So just know we're keeping that cadence going. The cumulative transition, I just can't say it enough. We will be transitioning our entire district from one student management system, finance management system, staff and student portal for grading, to a new system called cumulative. And so we meet every 2 weeks. Some people meet every week to keep this on par. And right now, training for our staff is the priority. And so we're working on that plan and it's coming together well. I'd like to thank the subcommittee who's working on that to be proactive. Budget work has now started in earnest. I've had a few meetings with principals already and have calendared every week to have meetings for budget development occur. I'll keep you up to date as we move forward, but we're really looking for March to be what I'd call a power month. We're going to be making many initial recommendations around how our different departments could be lining up. We are going through our budget line by line. It's arduous work, but it's just such a team effort. I can't say enough. So we will keep moving in that direction and I'll let you know how things are going. We did have 2 survey opportunities. We had our staff device survey that you've already heard about. Today, we launched a staff culture survey that went out to everyone and we'll be looking at those results. It's a different format than we've done in the past. In the past, we've done a very long survey and we've had people give us all kinds of answers that are on a Likert scale, and then you could input information. This survey approach, we're certainly using a model that we've learned from EAB, and it gets feedback from concise survey instrument, but then you go out and you talk about it. So we're actually responding to the information that we're receiving and gathering more information, being curious. So I'm really looking forward to this type of approach. And we think that probably next month in April will be the time we'll be getting out to get that feedback going. We have to have all the survey results received and disaggregated first. We have the community certification celebration for the bond, and many of you were able to make it. We do have a shovel that can be signed, and so we want to make
Yes.
sure all of you, yes, get to have your name on that shovel, and anyone else out there, we'd love to invite folks to be a part of that. We are literally going to use this shovel to break ground eventually, so it'll be exciting. Continue to be a part of the Revenue Advisory Committee from the county related to timber. And we are learning so much about the management and the sales. We also have Dave Updegrove, who is now newly elected to this position. And so we've heard from him and his intentions moving forward. So I would say to you that we are keeping our finger on the pulse of possible revenue streams with timber. We had our mid-year CSIP study session about academics, and from the debrief, it sounds like that is continuing to hit the mark and getting good information to you all. We'll be having our year-end June CSIP study session as well. So we'll come back to that. We have had finance operations manager interviews for a new business manager. We are in the midst of that. And so I'd say to you, we have had strong candidate pool. We're really pleased about that. And I will be bringing to you hopefully a candidate for consideration next board meeting. Okay. We had the student superintendent advisory committee meet on Friday, and Common Threads was the afternoon session where President Pickens was not only involved, but one of the developers of the session. And we have superintendent leadership from across the region meet with union leadership from across the region. And we discussed legislative advocacy and different aspects. And we came together on a special ed advocacy letter that we want to be putting together. And so we're gathering information for that. And actually, yours truly is in charge of the gathering. So he left with a job. And I just want to say that we heard about the presidential scholarship tonight. We are getting some other information of some scholarships that students are up for or have been awarded, and it's just really impressive. But on Friday night, I was able to go to the boys basketball game, and that was also impressive and just really fun to watch. It's so exciting. And so Wednesday night, our boys basketball team is off to state in Yakima, and there will be a 2 p.m. send-off. And I'd want to be sure that all of you know that if you'd like to come and participate. And I have down it's Tuesday. Is it actually Wednesday? Okay. That makes sense. Sorry about that. So Tuesday it is at 2 p.m. Coming up, I will be meeting with the Seroptimists. We'll be having bond briefings between Mike and I on a routine basis. Last week, I think we met 4 days out of the 5. And then budget across the board.
Any questions? Okay. We'll move on to board business. We have a second reading and approval of policy 3210. Non-discrimination.
I move we adopt policy 3210, non-discrimination.
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
That everybody? Motion passes unanimous.
Yep.
First reading approval, policy 3231, student records.
I move that we move policy 3231, student records, to a second reading.
I second.
Discussion? Looks like a fairly minor change on this one. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. First reading approval policy 3246, restraint, isolation, and other uses of reasonable force.
I move that we move policy number 3246 to a second reading.
Second.
Any discussion?
I haven't a chance to read it in detail, but I know this one is always of concern. Especially if you have disruptive students and how to handle those. And I assume we have quite a bit of training and our staff has alternate training and alternatives so that we can meet the requirements of law and our policy.
Yes, we use right response training. And so we have annual training and we have teams that are formed so that schools can respond as needed.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I think the changes to this were just legal references. It wasn't anything.
There was a repeal
Yeah.
of one of the RCWs,
Yeah,
so.
so it wasn't a substantive change in the rule.
Correct.
I mean, in the policy.
Possibly sometime in the future, we might want to have like a summary view of what our policy is towards, I mean, the procedure, excuse me, of, exactly in general what it is. we
Sure.
try
Oh,
to
like a
do.
presentation of
Yeah,
of
to
what you do?
de-escalate the situation
Okay.
and at some point.
Response. Yep, great.
Yeah.
That'd be
Okay,
great.
I do know there's, I mean, who knows what will happen, but I know there's a couple of bills now being proposed. That I believe also potentially coincide with some of the emergency, restrict emergency rules that were put in place by OSBI, so. We'll just stay tuned with that for
Yeah, for
further
sure.
changes may be necessary, so. All right, we already had the motion for move on to second reading. Any further discussion? On that one? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, motion passes. First reading and approval of policy 3250, student fees, fines, and charges.
Move that we move policy 3520 to a second reading.
I'll second.
Any discussion on this one? It's like a pretty significant chunk added here.
What this boils down to is that transcripts cannot be withheld.
Okay.
And if you have a student who's been involved with any damages, and whether they're above or below $1,000, what school district can do, that's outside of withholding a transcript.
I see.
And how about withholding, in the past, has been concerned about withholding because unpaid fees,
Mhm.
that sort of thing can't be done?
Well, depending on the dollar amount, correct? From what I read.
Correct, and the transcript is not allowable. A diploma is not a transcript,
Okay.
okay? There's just a difference. I
Right.
think the state is trying to insert itself to make sure that students heading to either have an employment opportunity or a college admittance are not held back from that, or military, for instance. That's where it lands.
Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes. Next is 10.05 second reading and approval policy 4130 Title
I move that we approve policy 4130 Title I.
I second.
I. Discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Second reading, approval policy 5010, non-discrimination and affirmative action.
I move we approve policy 5010, non-discrimination and affirmative action.
A second.
Discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimous. Second reading and approval policy 5400 personnel leaves. Personnel leaves.
I
Move
move,
that we approve policy 5400 personnel leaves.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 10.08. City of Sequim letter of support. Do you want to speak on this? please?
Sure. I was approached by the city manager about Sequim School District considering a letter of support for a fueling station. And the gist of this is that in times of crisis, we would want to have a proximal fueling station that could be advantageous in response to any type of disaster, and also recognizing that it will strengthen our emergency response capabilities on a wide basis. So I'm bringing this to you tonight on behalf of the city for your consideration, and I would say it seems as though the school district would benefit greatly by having this.
Sure. Okay, I would like to make a motion that we approve and enthusiastically anything we can do in spite of, in favor for the city, just this aligns, but let's go ahead and return favors when we can, to letter of support for the city. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
No, I think it's like we can mention it, it does help us in those situations too. I think I would imagine there could be some fueling needs that we may have in an emergency. So yes, I
100%.
definitely do that and think the city is on the right path.
Absolutely. All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. You said enthusiastically.
You win the award for most enthusiastic aye for sure, without objection. 10.09, 2025 Regional WASA Awards discussion.
Okay, so as you may recall, we attend the WASA Awards in Paulsbo each year, and this year it will be coming right up. Last year, we took the Lions Club, and
That was the year
the year before. Last year was CTE Work Committee because we had received the grant. And this year, we need to make a decision about attending again, which I would suggest we do. And then who awardee possibilities might be. So I wanted to bring a list of ideas to you. This is not exhaustive, just ideas that have been brainstormed for who we could possibly be having representatives. Number one, Citizens for Sequim Schools, our Long Range Facilities Planning Group. They both, of course, were pivotal around our bond passing and our levy. We have the Peninsula Tennis Club that partnered with us to put together a grant package for the Recreation Conservancy Office. Rotary, of course, has been very supportive with donation for CTE and other aspects. And then the Sequim Association of Realtors this year, their Level the Field grant that they give on an annual basis is quite substantial. I also will say that the Association of Realtors also really took a very strong interest around the bond, bringing an entire busload on an entire tour of the district and having me come to a couple of their meetings to really talk about facilities and planning. So those are just a few to name. But I do think we could consider this year that we not necessarily take an entire group of one designation, but maybe representatives from a few groups that have come together to help us. So
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if there's a way, we have a couple of and there is some overlap here anyway, but a couple of volunteers who were both a part of Long Range Facilities Planning Committee as well as Citizens for Sequim Schools. Like how, obviously it's for that bond effort, but how we could potentially be honoring under that one umbrella, if that's possible. That seems like the most significant thing to honor. And yeah, that would be my thought. Is there any I'll leave it at that.
And there is a requirement they not be district employees, correct?
Correct.
I like that umbrella approach, maybe one member representing. You mentioned several that were instrumental and supportive in getting this bond and levy passed, and since it passed with such robust numbers, it was quite an accomplishment that several people need to share pats on the back for. We can't take them all, but
No,
maybe we could let them choose representatives from those organizations. And we take, 4 or 5 or 6, whatever is allowed,
I think we can inquire about how many are allowed. There is a cost to each one. I just want to declare that. I think we all think it's worthy investment, no matter how many people we take.
Yeah.
So yes, we can find that out. I think in the past, it's been about, yes, and the number of people we've taken, I think 5. Mhm.
I would say I think that's a good direction to go.
Okay,
So I think first thing we agree that we should participate, right? So that's the first question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you need official motions on these or?
no, I don't think we need official motions.
just a heads up on who will be attending.
I think having some discretion with the organization, like to what was suggested, maybe those organizations choose some degree, is that?
I just mean, for me, just board members.
Oh, board members. Oh, yeah, okay.
Some of you have gone and not gone. Yeah.
Oh, no, that's fair. I
the
am
dates are
available
on
and I
that.
plan on attending, so.
It's Monday, April 21st. So we won't be having a board meeting that Monday. And it's at the Sequamish Clearwater Resort. And last year we took a van.
I think we have a board meeting Tuesday that month, correct? The day
No, I
after?
Don't actually have it.
No, it looks like
Yeah, I
the
think-
14th and then the 28th
I don't know.
is what it's on the.
Oh, yes, it's a shifted month because we have spring break
Oh,
the
okay.
first week.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Pretty shifty.
When first.
I think we should attend
Should be able to go.
as a group, and make it, I think, significant related to our
Already got it
our
on.
passage of a bond issue, and because we're kind of a shining light in the state.
Yeah, it'd be nice to celebrate that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think all the other people who come will know exactly what we've been doing. Why this is an important thing to celebrate.
Yeah, I would think so.
Sounds
I
good.
agree.
Okay, then we'll work on that. And if you get decisive about whether or not you can attend, if you haven't shared tonight, just please let Tracy know.
Sure.
And then we'll want to give the attendees as much.
Yeah.
We can work on that.
I think we can do the umbrella kind of, yeah.
Mhm.
We have to be careful with that one. Sometimes they're like, gotta pick one organization, kind of, so we'll have to navigate that,
Without leaving anybody out.
right? So. All right, I believe that is our last action item. I did just want to take a personal point of privilege, if you don't mind. I wanted to back up to the WIAA report. There were a couple of things that sometimes I make jokes to sort of diffuse kind of certain things, and I actually regretted kind of some of the humor, because I know there are some things on there that really could affect some of our students in ways that would be very impactful. So I just wanted to take a moment as I rethought some of my comments on there. I know that there's some potentially serious implications to what's on there, and I do not find any of those to be a joke matter. So just wanted to share that with the board. So my apologies for that. So anyway, thank you for that. And with that, anything else for the good of the order?
We do have an executive.
Oh, we are going to recess, not adjourn, into executive session. Thank you. Every time. And I will be, yes, we need to say what we're gonna be doing. The board will be meeting for approximately 30 minutes to review the performance of a public employee. With that, we stand in recess.